You cannot change the game until you understand its rules, and the rules, they are brutal. A strategist sees them for what they are, never what they wish them to be. Most people are not defeated by others. They are defeated by their own illusions. Strategy demands realism, detachment, precision. There are truths about power, timing, and control that most avoid because they are uncomfortable, but avoidance is weakness. In this video, I'll break down 10 unflinching truths that every strategist must accept if they want to win. Subscribe to our channel if you're ready to master your mind, and tell us, where are you watching from? Listen carefully, for what I am about to share has toppled emperors and raised kingdoms from dust. The greatest battle you will ever fight is not on any physical battlefield. It is in the silent chamber of your mind. This is where wars are truly won or lost, long before the first sword is drawn or the first move is made. Most seek strategy in tactics, in weapons, in numbers. They study techniques and memorize formations. But they miss the fundamental truth. The mind is the weapon that sharpens all other weapons. Without mental clarity, every other advantage becomes a liability. Consider the general who commands 10,000 men, but cannot command his own fears. His army is strong, his position favorable, yet he hesitates at crucial moments. Why? Because his mind is a battlefield of doubt, of second-guessing, of imagined catastrophes. His physical resources are abundant, but his mental resources are bankrupt. The undisciplined mind is like a fortress with open gates. It allows every wandering thought, every emotional disturbance, every external influence to enter and cause chaos. But the strategist's mind, it is an impenetrable citadel, not because it blocks everything out, but because it chooses what to let in, when to let it in, and how to use it. Here's the first harsh truth you must accept. Your natural thinking is your greatest weakness. You are programmed for comfort, for immediate gratification, for emotional reaction. These instincts served our ancestors well in simpler times. But in the realm of strategy, they are fatal flaws. The path to mental mastery begins with observation. Watch your thoughts as a general watches his troops. Notice which ones desert their post, which ones disobey orders, which ones spread fear through the ranks. Identifying these mental weaknesses is the first step to eliminating them. Yet observation alone is not enough. You must actively reshape your mental landscape. Your mind must become like the bamboo, flexible enough to bend with pressure, yet firmly rooted in unwavering principles. When storms come, the rigid oak may break, but the bamboo survives because it knows how to yield without surrendering its ground. This is the paradox of mental strength. True power lies not in rigidity, but in controlled flexibility. Every morning before the sun rises, you must prepare your mind for battle. Ask yourself, what territory am I defending today? What position am I trying to capture? What resources can I mobilize? Where are my lines of supply and retreat? What intelligence do I lack? These questions forge mental discipline. They transform vague hopes into concrete strategies. They turn emotional reactions into calculated responses. Remember, in the game of strategy, the mind is both the player and the board. It is the general and the battlefield. It is the weapon and the target. Master your mind, and you master the fundamental element of all victory. Your thoughts are like arrows in your quiver. Each one must be straight, sharp, and carefully selected. A single crooked thought can send your arrow far from its mark. A single dull edge can fail to penetrate when opportunity presents itself. The weak mind sees obstacles. The strong mind sees objectives. The strategic mind sees both, and charts a course through one to reach the other. This is not natural thinking. It must be developed through constant practice, relentless self-examination, and unwavering discipline. Success in strategy demands nothing less than complete mental transformation. Tonight, before you sleep, review your mental performance. Where did your thoughts serve you? Where did they betray you? Tomorrow, wake up earlier than your competitors. Use that time not for physical training, but for mental preparation. This is how you begin to forge the mind of a strategist. Victory begins here in the quiet hours before dawn, in the silent chamber of your thoughts. The art of war teaches us that external battles are merely reflections of internal conflicts. I have watched armies of thousands fall to forces of hundreds, not because they lacked strength, but because they lacked unity. This same principle applies to the individual strategist. A divided mind cannot produce unified action, and a house divided against itself cannot stand. Look closely at those who fail to achieve their objectives. You will find a common pattern. Their words contradict their actions, their desires fight. Their disciplines, their ambitions war with their habits. They are not merely fighting external opponents, they are battling themselves and losing on both fronts. This internal conflict manifests in countless ways. The strategist who preaches patience but acts on impulse, the leader who demands loyalty but harbors secret doubts, the warrior who trains for battle but sabotages his preparation with poor choices. You cannot win external wars while civil war rages within. This is the second harsh truth every strategist must face. Internal division is more dangerous than external opposition. Your enemies can be fought, but your inner conflicts must be resolved. Consider the nature of water. When unified, it can carve through mountains. When divided into drops, it loses its power. Your will must be like water, unified, directed, unstoppable. But most people's will is like scattered raindrops, each pulling in a different direction, none achieving meaningful impact. The first sign of internal warfare is inconsistency. You make plans, but fail to execute them. You set goals, but abandon them at the first challenge. You declare principles, but violate them under pressure. These are not mere failures of discipline. They are symptoms of a divided command structure within your own mind. Each instance represents a battlefield where different parts of your mind fight for control. The solution begins with understanding that different parts of your mind serve different purposes. The part that seeks comfort protected you in times of scarcity. The part that fears failure kept you from dangerous risks. The part that craves immediate gratification ensured your survival. These are not enemies to be destroyed. They are forces to be integrated. Think of them as generals in your internal army, each with valuable perspective, but none with the authority to override your strategic objectives. Integration requires a clear chain of command. Your highest strategic purpose must become the supreme commander of all mental forces. Comfort, fear, desire, these become scouts, warning systems, and motivation units, all serving the greater strategy. They retain their functions but lose their autonomy. This integration demands daily practice, like training an army to move as one. Each morning, gather your mental forces, align them with your strategic objectives. Each evening, review their performance. Where did unity break down? Where did internal conflict create external failure? Use these insights to strengthen your command. The unified mind moves with terrible power. When you decide to advance, all internal forces support the advance. When you choose to wait, all forces accept the wait. When you need to retreat, all forces retreat in order, protecting resources for the next engagement. Your enemies will attempt to create division within you. They will tempt your comfort-seeking parts with easy options. They will provoke your emotional parts to break ranks. They will feed your doubts to weaken your resolve. Without internal unity, you are vulnerable to all these tactics. This is why masters of strategy emphasize the importance of conviction. Without it, your forces scatter at the first sign of resistance. Think of your mind as an empire. Would you tolerate provinces that ignore central command? Generals who pursue their own agendas? Troops who retreat without orders? Of course not. Yet this is exactly how most people allow their thoughts, emotions, and actions to behave. They wonder why they cannot achieve their objectives while allowing internal rebellion to sabotage every effort. The path to unity begins with awareness. You must first map your internal territory. Where are the points of conflict? Which parts of you resist your strategic goals? What voices argue against your plans? These are not enemies to be silenced, but forces to be understood and redirected. Each has a purpose, each has value, but none should have the power to override your strategic direction. For the next week, maintain a war journal of internal conflicts. Record every instance of self-sabotage, every moment of divided will, every battle between what you know you should do and what you feel compelled to do. This record becomes your map of battlefields requiring attention. Study it carefully, look for patterns, identify trigger points. This is how you begin to transform internal warfare into internal harmony. Remember, a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. Neither can a mind divided against itself achieve its objectives. Unify your internal forces, and you will find that external obstacles become surprisingly manageable. The war within must end before the war without can be won. In ancient times, I witnessed a powerful general lose a battle he should have won. His army was superior, his position advantageous, his supplies abundant. But when his opponent insulted his honor, rage clouded his judgment. He abandoned his defensive position to attack. By sunset, his army lay in ruins, not because of inferior strength, but because emotion overruled strategy. This brings us to our third harsh truth. Emotion is not your ally in strategic thinking. It is a fog that obscures the battlefield, a poison that corrupts decision-making, a weight that drags down precise execution. Yet most people base their most important decisions on emotional impulses, believing their feelings offer wisdom. This is a fatal error. Understand this clearly. Emotions are like weather patterns in your mind. They are neither good nor bad in themselves, but they are unreliable guides for strategic action. Anger may feel like strength, but it blinds you to opportunities. Fear may feel like wisdom, but it paralyzes you when action is needed. Excitement may feel like clarity, but it rushes you into traps. Pride may feel like power, but it makes you predictable. The superior strategist does not ignore emotions. They understand them. They study how emotions distort perception, influence judgment, and impact decision-making. This understanding serves two purposes. It helps them master their own emotional responses and teaches them how to exploit emotional weaknesses in others. Consider how emotions create specific strategic vulnerabilities. Anger makes you predictable, fear makes you passive, greed makes you overextend, pride makes you vulnerable, attachment makes you manipulatable. The path to emotional mastery begins with distance. You must learn to create space between the emotional stimulus and your strategic response. When provoked, pause. When excited, wait. When frightened, hold. This gap, this moment of non-reaction, is where strategic thinking becomes possible. In this space, you can evaluate the situation without emotional distortion. But mere suppression of emotion is not the answer. Suppressed emotions become underground rivers, eroding your foundation and emerging at unexpected moments. Instead, you must develop the ability to observe your emotions without being controlled by them. Think of yourself as a mountain, watching storms pass across its surface without being moved by them. The storms have their purpose. They bring rain. They shape the landscape, but they do not command the mountain. Your enemies will try to use your emotions against you. They will insult you to provoke rash action. They will threaten you to inspire fear. They will praise you to inflate your pride. They will tempt you to trigger your greed. They will attack what you love to cloud your judgment. Without emotional mastery, each of these tactics becomes a potential point of failure in your strategy. The mastery of emotional control requires understanding that emotion moves faster than thought, but thought must learn to move independently of emotion. The superior strategist feels deeply but thinks clearly, using emotion as information rather than direction. When anger rises, they ask, "What does this anger tell me about the situation?" When fear emerges, they inquire, "What is this fear warning?" me about? When excitement builds, they question, what opportunities and risks does this emotion reveal? Think of emotional mastery as strategic resource management. Each emotion carries energy that can either serve or sabotage your strategy. Anger can fuel determination, but only if channeled with precision. Fear can sharpen awareness, but only if filtered through strategic analysis. Excitement can accelerate execution, but only if governed by tactical wisdom. Begin each morning by checking your emotional state. Throughout the day, notice when emotions attempt to override strategy. End each day by reviewing instances where emotion influenced your decisions, for better or worse. This daily practice builds the foundation of emotional intelligence that strategy requires. For the next month, maintain an emotional intelligence log. Record every situation where emotion affected your strategic thinking. Note the trigger that initiated the emotional response. Analyze how the emotion influenced your perception and decision-making. Document the strategic impact of your emotional state. Extract the lesson each experience offers. This record becomes your manual for emotional mastery. Remember, emotion is like fire. Properly controlled, it can power your strategic engine. Uncontrolled, it will burn down everything you've built. The goal is not to become cold and unfeeling, but to ensure that your emotions serve your strategy rather than sabotage it. Let emotion inform you, but never let it command you. In the realm of strategy, emotional mastery becomes the foundation of tactical precision. There is a story from the Warring States period of a warrior renowned for his incredible strength. He could bend iron bars, lift massive stones, and defeat any opponent in direct combat. Yet he died in his first real battle, not because he lacked power, but because he didn't know how to use it. Strength without strategy is like an arrow without direction, impressive in flight, but useless without a target. This brings us to our fourth harsh truth. Raw power is worthless without strategic application. I have watched armies of thousands fall to forces of hundreds, not because they lacked strength, but because they lacked strategy. In the realm of power, how you use what you have matters more than how much you have. Most people are obsessed with accumulating power, more resources, more influence, more capabilities. They believe that if they just become strong enough, success will naturally follow. This is the thinking of amateurs. The master strategist knows that power is merely potential. Strategy is what converts that potential into victory. Raw strength often blinds its possessor to subtle solutions, exhausts itself needlessly, creates unnecessary resistance, and reveals capabilities too early. Consider the river. Its power is immense, capable of carving through mountains and reshaping landscapes. But without channels to direct it, without dams to control it, without bridges to utilize it, that power is as likely to destroy as it is to create. Your strength is like that river. Its value lies not in its magnitude, but in your ability to direct it purposefully. The superior strategist thinks differently. They don't ask, "How strong am I?" but rather, "How can I apply my strength most effectively?" They don't consider, "Can I overpower this obstacle?" but instead, "How can I use this obstacle to my advantage?" The question isn't, "What can I destroy?" but "What can I accomplish?" Not, "How do I show my power?" but "How do I preserve my power until the crucial moment?" Your strength should be like a hidden blade, revealed only at the moment of strike. Most people cannot resist displaying their power, flexing their capabilities, showing what they can do. This is ego masquerading as strategy. True strategic power often appears as weakness until the moment of execution. The master strategist understands that power revealed is power vulnerable to counter-strategy. Speed is not just about moving fast. It's about moving at the right time. Strength is not just about force. It's about applied pressure at crucial points. Size is not just about mass. It's about presence where it matters. Resources are not just about quantity. They're about availability when needed. Each aspect of power must be guided by strategic thinking to become truly effective. Your enemies will try to provoke displays of power, tempt you into wasteful demonstrations, goad you into revealing your capabilities too soon. Without strategic thinking, you will fall for these traps, dissipating your strength before the real battle begins. They understand that power displayed is power compromised, and strength revealed creates its own vulnerabilities. The integration of power and strategy requires daily practice. Begin each morning by reviewing your resources, not just counting them, but considering how they might be applied. Throughout the day, notice opportunities for leverage rather than brute force. End each day by evaluating how efficiently you have used your strength. Ask yourself, did your power serve your strategy, or did your strategy serve your power? Create a power audit document. Examine all your current capabilities and resources, not just for their raw potential, but for their strategic application. For each strength you possess, consider, how are you currently using this power? What resistance does this use create? What alternative applications might be more effective? How could this power be combined with others for greater effect? When? Should this power be revealed or concealed? The strategic application of strength requires understanding that power is not just about capacity, it's about precision. It's not about how much force you can exert, but about how precisely you can apply it. The master strategist knows that often the smallest force, applied precisely at the right point and the right moment, achieves what massive power applied broadly cannot. Remember, the strongest warrior is not the one who can lift the heaviest weight, but the one who knows how to use their strength to achieve their objectives with minimal waste. Power must serve. Strategy, not dictate it. In the realm of strategic thinking, how you use what you have matters infinitely more than how much you have. Let strategy guide your power, and power serve your strategy. I once observed two armies of equal strength. One attacked at dawn, the other at dusk. One chose muddy terrain, the other waited for solid ground. One struck during a festival, the other during preparation for war. The difference in their victories was not about power, it was about timing. This brings us to our fifth harsh truth. Timing transforms ordinary moves into decisive strikes. Most people understand that timing matters, but few grasp that timing itself is a weapon, one more devastating than any sword, more powerful than any army. A perfect strategy executed at the wrong moment is worthless. A simple strategy executed at the perfect moment becomes unstoppable. The mastery of timing requires understanding three dimensions: the rhythm of situations, the momentum of forces, and the psychology of moments. Every circumstance has its cycle of strength and weakness. Every organization has its periods of vulnerability and power. Every system has its moments of transformation and stability. Every opponent has their patterns of attention and distraction. Every opportunity has its window of accessibility and closure. These rhythms are like waves in the ocean. The skilled navigator doesn't fight them, they use them to multiply their force. Yet most people either ignore these rhythms or fight against them, wasting energy and missing opportunities. Consider the principle of strategic patience. The novice strikes when they are ready. The amateur strikes when the enemy is weak. The master strikes when all forces align. This alignment includes not just your readiness and your opponent's vulnerability, but the convergence of multiple factors: resource availability, environmental conditions, psychological state, political climate, and social dynamics. Miss any of these, and victory becomes more costly, if not impossible. Forces in motion tend to stay in motion. Forces at rest tend to stay at rest. Every action creates reaction. Movement generates opportunity. Stillness accumulates power. Most fail because they fight against momentum rather than harnessing it. They try to start what isn't ready to move or stop what needs to continue. The strategic mind sees momentum as a force to be channeled, not challenged. The psychology of moments is equally crucial. Every situation has its peak of attention, its valley of fatigue, its point of maximum pressure, its moment of decisive choice. The master strategist coordinates their moves with these psychological rhythms. They know when their opponent is too confident to see danger, too frustrated to think clearly, too eager to wait properly, too fearful to act decisively, too comfortable to adapt quickly. Your timing must account for these psychological states, both in your opponent and in yourself. The greatest strategy will fail if executed when minds are not ready to either implement or accept it. Think of timing as a convergence of forces. Like a master conductor, you must bring together multiple elements at precisely the right moment for maximum effect. The art of timing requires gathering intelligence before setting timing, preparing thoroughly while waiting, starting slowly to build momentum, accelerating through points of advantage, maintaining rhythm in execution, adjusting timing to resistance, and consolidating gains before the moment passes. Each element demands both understanding and practice. Your enemies will try to rush you before you're ready, delay you until opportunities pass, disrupt your timing with provocations, hide their own temporal vulnerabilities, and create false moments of opportunity. Without mastery of timing, you will fall for these deceptions. With it, you will turn them into advantages. Create a timing analysis document. For each major objective you pursue, document the current momentum, positive or negative, psychological, readiness, yours and others, environmental conditions, favorable or unfavorable, resource availability, current and projected, and opposition patterns, strength and weakness cycles. Review this document weekly. Update it as conditions change. Use it to identify moments of maximum opportunity and periods requiring patience. Understanding timing means recognizing that every situation has its moment of ripeness. Strike too early, and resistance will be too strong. Strike too late, and the opportunity will have passed. The master strategist develops an intuitive sense of these moments not through mystical insight, but through careful observation and systematic analysis of patterns. Remember, time is not just a dimension in which strategy operates, it is itself a strategic weapon. Learn to wield it with the same precision you would any other instrument of war. The master of timing can defeat superior forces with inferior resources simply by choosing the perfect moment to act. In the realm of strategy, when you move often matters more than what you move. All warfare is based on deception. This is not a moral judgment. It is a strategic reality. Those who refuse to embrace this truth out of misguided nobility find themselves easily manipulated by those who understand it. Here lies our sixth harsh truth. In the realm of strategy, deception is not merely an option. It is a fundamental skill that determines survival. Let me be clear. I do not speak of common lying or petty manipulation. I speak of strategic deception, the art of controlling what others believe so that their actions serve your objectives. This is how the small defeat the large, how the weak overcome the strong, how the clever triumph over the powerful. The first step in mastering deception is understanding its nature not as a moral failing, but as a strategic imperative. When capable, appear incapable. When active, appear inactive. When near, appear far. When far, appear near. When strong, appear weak. When weak, appear strong. When ordered, appear chaotic. When chaotic, appear ordered. These are not mere tactical tricks. They are the fundamentals, principles of strategic reality management. The superior strategist understands that perception shapes action, and controlling perception becomes a source of power. Think in terms of layers. Surface deception deals with what people see. Structural deception shapes how people interpret. Foundational deception influences what people believe possible. Most practitioners of deception focus only on the surface level, changing what is visible. The superior strategist works at all three levels, creating coherent false realities that Their opponents accept without question. Consider how people form beliefs. They believe what aligns with their existing views, what serves their interests, what confirms their fears, what supports their hopes, what matches their experiences, what fits their cognitive biases. Understanding these psychological principles allows you to craft deceptions that your opponents willingly accept, even defend, because they align with their natural thinking patterns. Strategic deception requires systematic management, creating false patterns that can later be exploited, managing expectations about what is possible or likely, directing attention to control where others focus their analytical resources, using actual facts to support false conclusions, masking both strengths and weaknesses simultaneously, creating multiple plausible objectives, controlling perceived urgency and timing. But remember these crucial warnings: complex deceptions are more likely to fail. Every deception creates vulnerability if discovered. Maintaining deceptions requires constant attention. The best deceptions contain elements of truth. Your own organization must understand the true reality. These are not limitations. They are guidelines for effective strategic deception. Your enemies will attempt to penetrate your deceptions, create counter-deceptions, force premature revelation, exploit pattern breaks, and turn your deceptions against you. Without systematic management of these challenges, your deceptions become vulnerabilities rather than assets. The master strategist anticipates these attempts and builds layers of protection into their deception strategy. Think of deception as reality management. Every action, every position, every communication becomes part of a coherent false reality that serves your strategic objectives. This is not about random lying. It is about systematic control of what others believe about their strategic environment. The more comprehensive and consistent this false reality, the more effective it becomes. Create a deception audit document. For each major strategic objective, analyze the current perception versus the desired perception, resources required to maintain deception, risks of discovery, alternative explanations needed, supporting evidence required, potential points of exposure, and recovery plans if discovered. This document becomes your framework for strategic reality management. The practice of strategic deception requires daily attention. Monitor how your actions are being interpreted. Adjust your patterns to reinforce desired perceptions. Maintain consistency across all channels of communication. Control information flow to support your strategic narrative. Prepare contingencies for unexpected revelations. This is not paranoia. It is professional reality management. Remember, deception is not about random lying. It is about systematic reality management. Master this skill, and you control how others respond to your actions. Fail to master it, and others will control how you respond to theirs. In the realm of strategy, the ability to shape what others believe becomes as crucial as the ability to shape what actually exists. In ancient times, I observed a warrior famous for his spear work. His technique was flawless, his speed unmatched. Yet, in his final battle, an inferior opponent used the warrior's own perfect technique against him, drawing him into an attack that left him fatally exposed. This brings us to our seventh harsh truth. Your greatest strength, when predictable, becomes your greatest vulnerability. Most people build their strategy around their strengths. They think, I am excellent at this, therefore I should use it whenever possible. This is the logic of the amateur. The master strategist understands that every strength creates a shadow of vulnerability, and your enemies will study these shadows more carefully than you do. Your preferred methods, your established patterns, your proven techniques are both your greatest assets and your points of greatest vulnerability. Consider how strength becomes weakness. The strong become predictable in their use of force. The swift become reckless in their confidence. The clever become obtuse in their complexity. The wealthy become wasteful in their abundance. The skilled become rigid in their mastery. The cautious become paralyzed by their prudence. The bold become trapped by their courage. The patient becomes stagnant in their waiting. Each strength carries within it the seed of its own defeat. Your enemies will study your strengths more carefully than your weaknesses. They know that your preferred methods, your established patterns, your proven techniques are both your greatest assets and your points of greatest vulnerability. They will work to turn your momentum against you, exploit your confidence, trap you in your expertise, use your preferences as predictions, and transform your capabilities into constraints. The superior strategist anticipates these attempts by understanding strength management at multiple levels. First comes strength concealment, hiding capabilities until needed, varying patterns of application, maintaining multiple approaches, disguising primary methods, creating uncertainty about capabilities. Next is strength transformation, converting weaknesses into advantages, adapting strengths to new contexts, combining capabilities in unexpected ways, developing counterintuitive applications, transforming limitations into assets. Finally, there is strength transcendence, moving beyond dependency on any single capability, developing systematic adaptability, creating strength through combination rather than concentration, building victory through position rather than power, achieving objectives through indirect approaches. This highest level of mastery makes you impossible to counter because there is no single strength to target. The practice of strategic strength management requires never using strength the same way twice, developing multiple methods for each capability, creating unexpected combinations of abilities, practicing weakness to understand vulnerability, and mastering indirect approaches to direct objectives. You must learn to use strength as weakness when advantageous, practice appearing weak when strong, develop the ability to shift between approaches, master the art of strategic withdrawal, and understand when not to use your primary capabilities. Your daily practice must include identifying your default patterns, developing alternative approaches, testing capabilities in new contexts, building complementary skills, and creating unexpected combinations. Without this systematic preparation, your strengths become predictable weapons that can be turned against you. With it, you become adaptable and therefore unbeatable. Create a strength vulnerability analysis for each major capability. Document your primary patterns of application, predictable responses under pressure, potential counter strategies by opponents, alternative approaches and applications, integration points with other capabilities, and recovery plans when primary methods fail. This analysis becomes your guide to transforming vulnerable strengths into adaptive advantages. Remember that true mastery is not about perfecting a single strength until it becomes unbeatable. It is about developing a system of capabilities that cannot be predicted, trapped, or turned against you. Your strength should be like water, powerful yet formless, capable of adaptation to any container, impossible to grasp, yet able to wear away stone. Think of your capabilities as a language. The amateur knows a few powerful words and repeats them constantly. The master knows many words and can compose endless variations. The superior strategist transcends language itself, achieving objectives through whatever means the moment requires. This is the ultimate expression of strategic strength, the ability to succeed without dependency on any particular capability. Remember, true mastery is not about perfecting a single strength until it becomes unbeatable. It is about developing a system of capabilities that cannot be predicted, trapped, or turned against you. Your strength should be like water, powerful yet formless, capable of adaptation to any container, impossible to grasp, yet able to wear away stone. I once witnessed a brilliant general lose an entire campaign because he couldn't bear to sacrifice a single fortified position. This fortress had never fallen to siege, had been in his family for generations, represented everything he had achieved. When the enemy presented him with a choice, abandon the fortress or lose the war, his attachment to this single position cost him everything. This brings us to our eighth harsh truth. Attachment is the enemy of strategic thinking. Most people build their strategies around what they want to keep, what they refuse to lose, what they believe they must protect. This creates blind spots so massive that even the most obvious threats become invisible. The superior strategist understands that attachment to positions, to methods, to beliefs, to outcomes is a lens that distorts reality. It is not just an emotional weakness. It is a strategic vulnerability that your enemies will exploit. Consider how attachment manifests in strategy. Emotional attachment clouds judgment. When feelings override analysis, identity attachment constrains options when self-image becomes more important than success. Resource attachment paralyzes adaptation when investments become chains. Method attachment blocks better routes when familiar paths become prisons. Position attachment prevents necessary movement when current status becomes a cage. Outcome attachment blinds you to actual opportunities when desired results become obsessions. The path to strategic freedom begins with tactical detachment, the ability to abandon any position when necessary, willingness to sacrifice resources. For advantage, capacity to change methods under pressure, freedom to adapt to changing circumstances, readiness to accept unexpected opportunities. This is the foundation, but it is not enough. Deeper still lies operational detachment, freedom from methodological constraints, independence from specific resources, flexibility in relationship management, adaptability in position and status, openness to alternative approaches. This level of detachment allows you to restructure entire operations without emotional resistance. Yet even this is not the highest form. True strategic detachment means liberation from fixed outcomes, independence from identity constraints, freedom from emotional anchors, clarity of perception without filters, complete tactical flexibility. Few reach this level of strategic freedom. It requires not just letting go of what you have, but letting go of who you think you are. The psychology of attachment creates predictable errors. We overvalue what we already possess. We overestimate familiar approaches. We overprotect established positions. We over-rely on proven methods. We overcommit to declared objectives. We over-identify with current status. These tendencies create vulnerabilities that your enemies will study and exploit. Your enemies will exploit your attachments by threatening what you value most, forcing defense of fixed positions, creating emotional decision points, exploiting your investment history, using your commitments against you. Without mastery of detachment, these attacks will force you into predictable, defensive patterns that waste resources and create additional vulnerabilities. The practice of strategic detachment requires regular position abandonment exercises, method rotation protocols, outcome redefinition practice, identity expansion training, resource reallocation drills, relationship recalibration procedures, belief system flexibility development, and strategic reformulation exercises. This is not about becoming cold or uncaring. It is about maintaining strategic freedom. Create an attachment audit document. For each major strategic position, analyze the emotional investment level, resource commitment scale, identity integration degree, method dependency rating, position defense costs, outcome attachment intensity, alternative approach availability, and sacrifice impact assessment. This document becomes your map for identifying and eliminating strategic vulnerabilities created by unnecessary attachments. Think of attachment as strategic debt. Every emotional investment, every fixed position, every rigid method creates obligations that limit your freedom of action. The superior strategist maintains minimum strategic debt, keeping maximum freedom to adapt, move, and transform as circumstances require. Remember, the superior strategist maintains perfect clarity by remaining free from attachment. They can see reality without distortion because they have nothing they must protect, nothing they can't sacrifice, nothing they won't change. This clarity becomes their greatest advantage, allowing them to act decisively while others hesitate, move freely while others remain bound, and seize opportunities while others cling to what they fear to lose. In the mountains of ancient China, I observed two fortresses. One, comfortable and well supplied, fell within a month of siege. The other, constantly tested by raids and hardship, stood for years. This brings us to our ninth harsh truth. Comfort is not your ally. It is a poison that slowly erodes your strategic capabilities. In the realm of strategy, comfort is not a reward. It is a warning. Most seek comfort as a goal, believing that ease and convenience signal success. This is the thinking of those destined for defeat. The superior strategist understands that comfort is the enemy of growth, the assassin of adaptation, and the destroyer of strategic advantage. When comfort seeps into your strategy, it manifests in many forms, each creating its own vulnerability. Physical comfort reduces capability, as ease diminishes readiness. Mental comfort blocks learning when certainty prevents growth. Tactical comfort creates vulnerability when routine becomes predictable. Operational comfort breeds weakness when stability prevents adaptation. Strategic comfort prevents adaptation when success breeds complacency. Psychological comfort diminishes awareness when security dulls vigilance. Resource comfort creates waste when abundance breeds carelessness. The superior strategist cultivates discomfort, not because they enjoy hardship, but because they understand that only through continuous challenge can strategic capability be maintained and expanded. They know that comfort is like rust. It works slowly, but destroys completely. In the game of strategy, the comfortable become predictable, the predictable become vulnerable, and the vulnerable become defeated. Think of strategic discomfort as deliberate hardship. Strength grows through resistance. Skills develop through challenge. Awareness sharpens through danger. Adaptation requires pressure. Innovation demands constraint. These are not punishment. They are the forge in which strategic capability is created and maintained. The strategist who avoids these pressures may feel safe, but they are actually becoming weaker with each passing day. Your enemies will exploit your comfort by waiting for your guard to lower, attacking when you feel secure, striking where you feel strongest, moving when you've grown static, changing what you've mastered. Without systematic comfort disruption, these attacks will find you unprepared, inflexible, and vulnerable. The comfortable warrior becomes an easy target. The path to strategic excellence requires systematic disruption of comfort at every level. In physical practice, train under adverse conditions, practice with limited resources, operate with artificial constraints, execute while fatigued, perform under pressure. In mental development, study unfamiliar disciplines, challenge core assumptions, question proven methods, explore opposing viewpoints, reconstruct fundamental beliefs, create a comfort analysis document. For each area of operation, identify comfort, patterns that have developed, routines that have become rigid, advantages that breed complacency, positions that create stagnation, resources that encourage waste, methods that have become automatic, assumptions that go unchallenged, capabilities that remain untested. This document becomes your map for strategic revitalization. Implement a systematic comfort disruption protocol. Begin each day by identifying and challenging one comfort zone. Throughout the day, seek opportunities to operate outside your preferred methods and patterns. End each day by reviewing where comfort may have compromised your strategic effectiveness. This is not about making life difficult, it is about maintaining strategic vitality. The practice of strategic discomfort requires daily dedication. Train when others rest. Study when others celebrate. Question when others accept. Adapt when others settle. This constant push against comfort's gravity keeps your strategic capability sharp and your tactical responses fresh. It prevents the slow decay that comfort invariably brings. Think of comfort as strategic entropy, a natural force that constantly works to degrade your capabilities. Just as a sword must be regularly sharpened to maintain its edge, your strategic capabilities must be constantly challenged to maintain their effectiveness. The moment you become comfortable with any aspect of your strategy is the moment that aspect begins to weaken. Remember, the superior strategist understands that comfort is not a destination. It is a warning signal. They cultivate discomfort, not because they enjoy hardship, but because they know that only through continuous challenge can strategic capability be maintained and expanded. In the game of strategy, the comfortable become predictable, the predictable become vulnerable, and the vulnerable become defeated. In ancient warfare, I witnessed a pattern so consistent it became a law. The army that prepared during peace dominated the army that prepared during crisis. This brings us to our 10th harsh truth. Preparation before necessity is the foundation of strategic success. Most wait for chaos to begin preparation. By then, it is already too late. Consider the general who begins training his troops when enemy armies appear on the horizon. Consider the merchant who starts saving when bankruptcy looms. Consider the leader who thinks of succession only when illness strikes. These are not strategic failures. They are preparation failures that create strategic impossibilities. The time to prepare is not when challenge arrives, but long before it appears on the horizon. Strategic preparation operates across 3 distinct horizons. The immediate horizon spans the next 1 to 3 months. This is where most focus their attention, working on skill enhancement, resource accumulation, position strengthening, and threat assessment. The intermediate horizon extends from 3 months to a year, involving capability development, system construction, network expansion, and strategic positioning. The long-term horizon stretches 1 to 5 years ahead, focusing on foundation, building, culture creation, identity formation, and legacy establishment. Most focus only on the immediate horizon. Some consider the intermediate. Almost none invest in the long term. Yet it is long-term preparation that determines ultimate strategic success. The superior strategist understands that preparation is not about predicting specific challenges. It is about building capabilities that make you ready for any challenge that arrives. Think of preparation as strategic insurance. Mental preparation through scenario planning, decision training, emotional conditioning, cognitive expansion, and perspective development creates resilience. Physical preparation through resource accumulation, capability building, infrastructure development, and position strengthening creates readiness. Strategic preparation through option creation, alliance building, intelligence gathering, and capability integration creates advantage. The psychology of preparation works against us. We underestimate future challenges, overestimate future capabilities, discount distant threats, prioritize immediate concerns, avoid uncomfortable preparation, and prefer reactive to proactive measures. These psychological barriers create predictable preparation failures that your enemies will exploit. Your enemies will exploit poor preparation by striking when you're least ready, attacking untested systems, targeting unprepared positions, exploiting capability gaps, and overwhelming limited resources. Without systematic preparation, these attacks will find you vulnerable precisely when strength is most crucial. The time to prepare defenses is not when the enemy is at the gates. Begin your preparation practice with reverse planning. Start with ultimate objectives. Work backward through requirements, identify preparation gaps, build systematic solutions, and create implementation timelines. This approach reveals what must be done now to create future success. Combine this with systematic over-preparation. Prepare beyond apparent needs, build redundant capabilities, create resource reserves, develop multiple options, establish backup. Systems make preparation part of daily operations. Build learning into every activity, create development feedback loops, establish preparation metrics, and reward proactive preparation. This integration ensures that preparation becomes systematic rather than reactive. Every day should strengthen your position for future challenges. Create a strategic preparation matrix. For each key area, Document current preparation level required. Preparation level, preparation gaps, development timeline, resource requirements, implementation steps, testing protocols, and success metrics. Review this matrix monthly. Use it to ensure preparation becomes systematic rather than reactive. Think of preparation as compound interest for your strategic capabilities. Small, consistent investments in preparation, made regularly over time, create exponential returns. When challenges arise, the time to build these capabilities is not when you need them, but long before they become necessary. Every day of preparation creates strategic advantages that cannot be gained any other way. Remember, the superior strategist understands that victory is determined long before battle begins. They prepare not for the challenges they can see, but for the ones they cannot yet imagine. In the realm of strategy, preparation is not about predicting the future. It is about creating capabilities that make you ready for any future that arrives. One had lost all influence. This brings us to our 11th harsh truth. Silence is not the absence of power. It is power itself. Most people treat silence as a void to be filled, a weakness to be overcome, a position to be abandoned. They speak to prove their knowledge, display their power, establish their presence. This is the strategy of amateurs. The master strategist understands that silence creates power through mystery, tension, and selective revelation. In the realm of strategy, silence becomes a weapon more potent than words. Consider how silence operates on multiple dimensions. At the tactical level, silence controls information flow, manipulates timing, directs attention, manages responses, and maintains position ambiguity. At the operational level, silence masks intent, conceals capabilities, obscures strategy, disrupts patterns, and manages expectations. At the strategic level, silence projects power, establishes psychological dominance, strengthens position, preserves options, and creates control. The psychology of silence works in your favor. Silence creates mystery. Mystery generates attention. Attention produces power. Restraint suggests strength. Ambiguity invites projection. Scarcity increases value. These psychological principles make silence a formidable strategic tool. One that works even when your opponent knows you are using it. Think of silence as a strategic void, a space that others must fill. When you create this void through careful silence, others rush to fill it with their own assumptions, fears, and projections. This gives you power over their thinking without saying a word. The superior strategist understands that what is not said often impacts strategy more than what is said. Your enemies will try to break your silence by provoking emotional responses, creating urgency for decisions, demanding immediate positions, forcing premature revelations, and challenging your restraint. Without mastery of silence, these tactics will force you into disadvantageous communication. With mastery, these attempts to make you speak become opportunities to demonstrate your control. The practice of strategic silence requires daily discipline. Practice response delay training. Wait before speaking, even when you know the answer. Exercise information control. Reveal only what serves your strategy. Maintain emotional regulation. Let others show their feelings first. Practice position ambiguity. Keep others uncertain about your true stance. Integrate strategic pauses. Use silence to create tension and focus attention. Master the art of selective revelation. Speak only for strategic advantage. Release informations with purpose. Time disclosures for maximum impact. Control context through silence. Manage understanding through gaps. Every word you speak should serve a strategic purpose, and every silence should create strategic advantage. Create a silence. Strategy document. For each key area of operation, analyze your current communication patterns, strategic silence opportunities, power projection possibilities, mystery generation potential, control establishment methods, influence building options, and authority creation techniques. This document becomes your guide to transforming silence from passive space into active power. The strategic use of silence requires understanding that power often lies not in what you do, but in what you withhold. Your silence should project strength through calm, display confidence through restraint, demonstrate control through patience, show mastery through peace, and establish authority through selective communication. This is not passive silence. It is active power projection through strategic restraint. Think of silence as negative space in strategy. Just as an artist uses negative space to define and enhance the subject, the strategist uses silence to define and enhance their position. The spaces between your actions, the pauses between your words, the gaps in your communication, these become as strategically significant as the actions, words, and messages themselves. Remember, the superior strategist understands that silence is not merely the absence of sound, it is the presence of power. They use silence not as a retreat from engagement, but as a form of engagement itself. In the realm of strategy, the one who controls silence controls the space in which all action occurs. During the Siege of Wei, I watched a commander sacrifice his best cavalry unit to create an opening that led to total victory. His soldiers questioned his judgment until the larger strategy became clear. This brings us to our 12th harsh truth. Strategic victory often requires tactical sacrifice. Those unwilling to lose small battles cannot win great wars. Most people try to win every engagement, protect every resource, succeed in every moment. This is the mindset of the tactician, not the strategist. The superior strategist understands that some losses are investments, some failures are positioning, and some defeats are merely steps toward greater victory. They measure all losses not by immediate cost, but by strategic return. Consider how sacrifice operates at different scales. At the tactical level, sacrifice involves resource allocation, position abandonment, advantage surrender, opportunity rejection, and asset deployment. At the operational level, it requires capability trading, relationship management, position restructuring, system reformation, and pattern breaking. At the strategic level, it demands identity transformation, core reorganization, foundation rebuilding, complete reinvention, and ultimate positioning. The psychology of sacrifice works against us. We overvalue immediate gains, fear small losses, cling to current positions, resist necessary changes, protect comfortable patterns, and defend established identity. These psychological barriers prevent effective strategic sacrifice and keep us trapped in tactical thinking. The master strategist must overcome these natural tendencies to achieve higher victory. Think of strategic sacrifice as an investment. Just as an investor must risk current capital for future returns, the strategist must risk current advantages for future victories. Every sacrifice should be measured not by what is lost, but by what it makes possible. The superior strategist understands that the willingness to lose small battles often determines who wins the war. Your enemies will exploit your unwillingness to sacrifice by forcing protection of minor assets, creating small battle fixation, demanding resource defense, exploiting position attachment, and using transparency against you. Without mastery of strategic sacrifice, these tactics will trap you in tactical thinking, forcing you to defend positions that should be abandoned. The practice of strategic sacrifice requires systematic assessment. Before any sacrifice, evaluate its value, calculate its cost, assess opportunity gain, analyze position impact, and confirm strategic alignment. During sacrifice, optimize timing, manage resources, transition position, control narrative, and manage perceptions. After sacrifice, capture learning, develop advantages, strengthen position, evolve relationships, and advance strategy. Master the art of purposeful abandonment. Leave positions with intent, surrender advantage for opportunity, release control for influence, trade present for future, exchange tactical for strategic. Every abandonment should serve a larger purpose, Every loss should create a greater gain. Every sacrifice should open a path to greater victory. Create a strategic sacrifice matrix. For each major objective, analyze required sacrifices, expected returns, timeline projections, risk assessments, position implications, relationship impacts, identity effects, and implementation steps. This matrix becomes your guide to ensuring sacrifices serve strategy rather than emotion. The strategic application of sacrifice requires understanding that not all assets, positions, or advantages are equally valuable. Some must be protected. At all costs, others must be risked for greater gain, and some must be deliberately abandoned to create new opportunities. The superior strategist knows the difference and acts accordingly. Think of sacrifice as strategic pruning. Just as a gardener removes healthy branches to promote stronger growth, the strategist removes viable positions, functional relationships, and working methods to create space for superior alternatives. This is not destruction. It is cultivation. Through selective reduction, remember, the superior strategist understands that victory requires sacrifice. They measure all losses not by immediate cost, but by strategic return. In the game of strategy, the ability to lose small with purpose becomes the foundation for winning big with precision. Those who try to win every battle often lose the war, while those who know what to sacrifice and when shape the final victory. In the Battle of Chang'an, I witnessed 3 allied kingdoms turn against each other in a single day. Their combined strength could have ruled the empire. Instead, their mutual suspicion led to mutual destruction. This brings us to our 13th harsh truth. Alliances are not foundations, they are tools, and like all tools, they can break when pressure is applied. Most people treat alliances as permanent structures, bonds forged in trust that will withstand any challenge. This is dangerous. Illusion. The superior strategist understands that every alliance is a temporary alignment of interests subject to change when circumstances shift or better opportunities arise. What appears unbreakable in times of mutual benefit often shatters under the pressure of competing advantages. Consider how alliances operate at different levels. Tactical alliances involve resource sharing, capability combination, threat response, opportunity exploitation, and position reinforcement. Operational alliances require system integration, process alignment, culture harmonization, strategy coordination, and risk distribution. Strategic alliances demand power multiplication, position transformation, market domination, innovation acceleration, and legacy establishment. The fragility of alliances stems from multiple sources. Interest divergence occurs as goals evolve. Priorities shift, values change, strategies conflict, and opportunity costs rise. Power dynamics shift as strength changes, positions evolve, influence grows, control disputes emerge, and authority conflicts develop. Trust erodes through information asymmetry, commitment questions, loyalty tests, intention doubts, and transparency issues. Think of alliances as bridges, necessary for crossing certain gaps, but inherently vulnerable to stress. External pressures from market changes, competitor actions, resource constraints, environmental shifts, and stakeholder demands can strain even the strongest alliance. The superior strategist builds these bridges while always maintaining the capability to operate without them. Your enemies will exploit alliance weaknesses by creating interest conflicts, exposing power imbalances, sowing trust issues, offering better options, and forcing loyalty tests. Without systematic alliance management, these attacks will fracture your strategic relationships. The master strategist anticipates these attempts and builds resilience into every alliance structure. The practice of alliance management requires constant attention to interest alignment. Monitor mutual benefit, track value creation, assess contribution, balance, evaluate power distribution, and measure return allocation. Yet never forget the principle of strategic independence. Maintain core capabilities, preserve critical resources, protect key relationships, retain strategic options, and keep your power base secure. Master the art of alliance evolution. Expect relationship changes, plan for power shifts, prepare for realignment, anticipate betrayal, and design exit strategies. Every alliance should be treated as a living entity that requires constant nurturing, yet might still expire when its purpose is fulfilled or conditions change. Create an alliance management matrix. For each strategic relationship, analyze current value exchange, power dynamics, dependency levels, risk factors, evolution potential, exit implications, management requirements, and development opportunities. This document becomes your framework for maintaining healthy alliances while preserving strategic independence. The strategic approach to alliances requires understanding that trust and verification are not opposites. They are complementary practices. Trust what you can verify, verify what you must trust, and maintain independence where neither trust nor verification is possible. The superior strategist builds alliances on mutual interest rather than mutual trust. Think of alliance management as ecosystem cultivation. Just as a healthy ecosystem requires balance between cooperation and competition, strategic success requires balance between alliance building and independent capability. Too much dependence on allies creates vulnerability, while too little cooperation limits opportunity. Remember, the superior strategist understands that alliances are tools, not foundations. They build their strategy on what they control, using alliances to multiply power rather than depend on it. In the realm of strategy, the ability to form, manage, and dissolve alliances with precision becomes a source of power itself. Those who master this art find strength in cooperation without becoming dependent on it. In the Siege of Wu, I watched a brilliant strategy collapse in minutes when unexpected rain turned solid ground to mud. The general who had planned for months could not adapt to changing conditions. His rigid adherence to his plan became his prison. This brings us to our 14th harsh truth. No plan survives contact with reality unchanged. Most people treat plans as sacred scripts, investing so heavily in their creation that they become emotionally unable to abandon them when conditions change. This is the path to defeat. The superior strategist understands that plans are not destinations, they are starting points for adaptation. They know that the value of a plan lies not in its perfection, but in its ability to evolve with circumstances. Consider how adaptation operates at different levels. Tactical adaptation involves resource reallocation, method adjustment, timing, modification, position shift, and execution variation. Operational adaptation requires process reformation, system reorganization, capability modification, structure adjustment, and pattern transformation. Strategic adaptation demands core objective revision, fundamental redesign, complete reorientation, identity transformation, and total reinvention. The environment demands constant adaptation. Markets change, competitors move, resources shift, conditions evolve, and opportunities emerge. Internal dynamics shift as capabilities develop. Culture evolves, processes modify, structures adjust, and systems transform. Relationships require constant adaptation through alliance management, network evolution, partnership adjustment, competition response, and stakeholder alignment. Think of adaptation as strategic breathing, a constant rhythm of expansion and contraction in response to circumstances. Just as breathing must adjust to different activities, strategic adaptation must match the pace and intensity of environmental change. The superior strategist maintains this adaptive rhythm even when conditions appear stable. Your enemies will exploit rigid planning by creating unexpected situations, forcing premature commitments, disrupting assumed conditions, attacking plan, dependencies, and changing game rules. Without mastery of adaptation, these tactics will render your plans not just useless, but dangerous. The master strategist anticipates these attempts and builds flexibility into every strategic element. The practice of strategic adaptation requires continuous assessment. Monitor your environment constantly, evaluate plan effectiveness, measure result alignment, track assumption validity, and assess opportunity cost. Maintain multiple options, preserve resource mobility, keep strategic reserves, build response capability, and develop adaptation skills. Transform through challenge, grow through adversity, learn through failure, advance through change, strengthen through adaptation. Master the art of flexible response. Rather than trying to perfect a single plan, develop multiple contingencies. Instead of betting everything on one approach, maintain several viable options. Rather than committing fully to one path, preserve the ability to shift as circumstances demand. The superior strategist plans not for a single future, but for multiple possible futures. Create an adaptation readiness matrix. For each major strategic initiative, analyze change triggers, response options, resource requirements, capability needs, timeline implications, risk factors, success metrics, and recovery plans. This document becomes your guide to ensuring adaptation. Become systematic rather than reactive. The strategic approach to adaptation requires understanding that change is not your enemy. Rigidity is. Plans should be firm enough to provide direction, but flexible enough to accommodate reality. The superior strategist builds plans like ships, strong enough to weather storms, but able to adjust their course as winds change. Think of strategic adaptation as water flowing around obstacles. Water doesn't fight barriers, it finds new paths. It doesn't resist change, it embraces it. It doesn't break when forced to change direction, it simply flows another way. This is the essence of strategic adaptation, maintaining momentum through constant adjustment. Remember, the superior strategist understands that planning and adaptation are not opposing forces, they are complementary capabilities. They plan not to predict the future, but to prepare for its changes. In the realm of strategy, the ability to adapt with precision becomes more valuable than the ability to plan with perfection. Victory goes not to those who plan best, but to those who adapt best. In the Battle of Sun Valley, I observed a general who had spent years studying his opponent's tactics. When they finally met in combat, he could predict every move before it happened. His victory was assured not through superior strength, but through superior understanding. This brings us to our 15th harsh truth. While you study your opponent studies you. Most people focus solely on understanding their enemies, forgetting that they themselves are being watched. Analyzed and decoded, this creates dangerous blindness. The superior strategist understands that they are not just an observer of the game, they are part of it, being observed, analyzed, and targeted by others. Every pattern you create becomes a weapon that can be used against you. Consider how strategic visibility manifests at different levels. At the tactical level, your action patterns, response habits, resource usage, method selection, and decision timing become visible to careful observers. At the operational level, your system structure, process design, capability deployment, resource allocation, and pattern formation reveal your strategic architecture. At the strategic level, your core principles, decision frameworks, value systems, identity elements, and ultimate objectives become discernible to those who study deeply. The psychology of visibility creates predictable vulnerabilities. We underestimate our predictability, ignore our patterns, forget our exposure, reveal through reaction, leak through consistency, and broadcast through habit. These psychological blind spots make us easier to read than we realize. The master strategist understands that everything they do sends signals, whether intended or not. Think of yourself as a text being read by your opponents. Every action, every decision, every pattern becomes a paragraph in this text. Just as you study others' texts for insights and vulnerabilities, they study yours. The superior strategist learns to write this text deliberately, controlling what others can read while maintaining the ability to change the narrative at will. Your enemies will study you through pattern analysis, network mapping, resource tracking, decision modeling, and behavior prediction. Without systematic visibility management, these observations will make you predictable and vulnerable. The master strategist anticipates this study and ensures that what others learn serves strategic purposes rather than exposes weaknesses. 4. Practice of strategic visibility management requires constant attention to pattern control. Regulate your behavioral consistency, vary your response patterns, rotate your method selection, shift your timing rhythms, and modify your decision processes. Master strategic opacity by masking core capabilities, hiding true intentions, protecting key resources, concealing vital relationships, and guarding critical information. Master the art of controlled revelation. Show what serves strategy. Reveal what creates advantage. Display what deceives. Demonstrate what misdirects. Express what confuses. Every visible aspect of your operation should be carefully curated to serve strategic purposes. What others see should be what you want them to see, not what they happen to notice. Create a strategic visibility matrix. For each key area, analyze your current exposure levels, pattern predictability, information leakage, vulnerability points, observation angles, countermeasures, deception opportunities, and control methods. This document becomes your guide to ensuring your visibility serves your strategy rather than exposes it. The strategic approach to visibility requires understanding that complete invisibility is neither possible nor desirable. Instead, focus on making your visible aspects serve your strategic purposes. Let your opponents see what benefits you for them to see. Create patterns that lead them to conclusions that serve your objectives. Think of strategic visibility as a form of communication. Everything you do sends messages to those who watch you. The superior strategist ensures these messages form a coherent, strategic narrative, one that shapes observers' understanding in ways that serve larger objectives. Your patterns should tell the story you want told. Remember, the superior strategist understands that they are not just an observer, but also the observed. They manage their visibility with the same care they use to study others. In the realm of strategy, becoming unreadable is as important as being able to read others. Those who master this art find strength in being studied, turning observers' attention into strategic advantage. At the Battle of Red Cliff, I watched a commander deliberately expose his weakest flank. The enemy, sensing opportunity, committed their full force to that point, only to find themselves trapped in an elaborate deception. This brings us to our 16th harsh truth. Perception management is not deception. It is the art of controlling what others believe about your power. Most people try to appear strong at all times, broadcasting their capabilities and advertising their advantages. This is the strategy of amateurs. The superior strategist understands that controlled weakness is often stronger than displayed strength, and that managing perceptions is as crucial as managing resources. They know that how others perceive their power often matters more than the power itself. Consider how perception operates at different levels. At the tactical level, perception management involves capability display, resource presentation, position, projection, intention signaling, and power suggestion. At the operational level, it requires system appearance, process presentation, structure display, method projection, and pattern suggestion. At the strategic level, it demands identity management, core presentation, nature projection, essence, display, and foundation suggestion. The psychology of perception works in predictable ways. People believe what they expect. Assumptions guide observation. Desire influences interpretation. Fear shapes understanding. Hope affects judgment. Pride creates blindness. The master strategist understands these principles and uses them to shape how others interpret reality. They know that what others believe about your power becomes as important as the power itself. Think of perception management as strategic theater. Every action, every position, every display becomes part of a carefully choreographed performance. The superior strategist ensures this performance serves strategic objectives rather than ego gratification. They understand that appearing weak when strong and strong when weak creates strategic advantages that mere power cannot achieve. Your enemies will attempt to test perceived weaknesses, verify apparent strengths, challenge displayed positions, probe suggested capabilities, and question presented intentions. Without mastery of perception management, these tests will force premature revelation of your true position. The master strategist anticipates these probes and turns them into opportunities for strategic deception. The practice of strategic perception management requires careful orchestration. Create false patterns that can be exploited later. Manage expectations about what is possible. Direct attention to control where others focus their analysis. Use actual facts to support false conclusions. Mask both strengths and weaknesses simultaneously. Create multiple plausible objectives. Control perceived urgency and timing. Master the art of strategic ambiguity. When capable, appear incapable. When active, appear inactive. When near, appear far. When far, appear near. When strong, appear weak. When weak, appear strong. When ordered, appear chaotic. When chaotic, appear ordered. Each contrast creates opportunities for strategic advantage. Create a perception management matrix. For each strategic element, analyze current perception, desired perception, gap analysis, management methods, implementation steps, control measures, success indicators, and adjustment protocols. This document becomes your guide to ensuring perceptions serve strategy rather than expose it. The strategic approach to perception requires understanding that truth and appearance serve different purposes. Truth guides your actions. Appearance shapes others' reactions. The superior strategist maintains perfect clarity about the difference while ensuring both serve strategic objectives. They never let the desire to appear powerful override the need to be powerful. Think of perception management as painting with light and shadow. Just as an artist uses both to create depth and form, the strategist uses displays of strength and weakness to create strategic advantage. The art lies not in showing everything clearly, but in controlling what others see and how they interpret it. Remember, the superior strategist understands that perception management is not about deception, it is about control. They know that how others perceive their power is often more important than the power itself. In the realm of strategy, mastering the art of appearing weak when strong and strong when weak becomes a source of power itself. Those who master this art find strength in being underestimated, and advantage in being misunderstood. In the court of King Chu, I witnessed a general who rose from his seat during a crucial negotiation. This simple movement, neither aggressive nor submissive, changed the entire dynamic of the discussion. This brings us to our 17th harsho, truth. In the realm of strategy, there are no neutral actions. Every move, every pause, every position communicates something to those who know how to read it. Most people think communication happens only through words and deliberate signals. This is dangerous ignorance. The superior strategist understands that everything communicates: timing, position, pace, presence, even silence. Each element sends messages that shape how others perceive, respond, and strategize. In the game of strategy, there is no such thing as a meaningless action. Consider how strategic communication operates across dimensions. Temporal messages emerge through timing choices, response speed, action sequence, pause duration, and rhythm patterns. Positional messages manifest through space occupation, distance management, alignment choice, formation selection, and position taking. Resource messages appear in asset deployment, investment patterns, resource allocation, capability utilization, and strength display. The psychology of message reception operates on deep levels. Actions speak louder than words. Patterns reveal priorities. Timing suggests importance. Position indicates intention. Movement betrays purpose. Stillness signals strength. The master strategist understands these principles and ensures every action serves strategic communication purposes. They know that what they don't do often communicates as much as what they do. Think of strategic communication as a constant broadcast. Whether you intend to or not, you are always sending messages through your actions, positions, timing, and presence. The superior strategist ensures this broadcast serves strategic purposes rather than revealing strategic intentions. They understand that every action creates ripples of meaning that others will interpret. Your enemies will read your messages through action analysis, pattern study, timing examination, position evaluation, and resource tracking without systematic message management. These observations will reveal your true position and intentions. The master strategist anticipates this reading and ensures that what others learn serves strategic purposes rather than exposes vulnerabilities. The practice of strategic communication requires precise orchestration. Align multiple channels of communication, coordinate signals across different dimensions, harmonize messages through various mediums, synchronize timing across all actions, integrate meaning through position and movement. Each element must support a coherent strategic narrative. Master the art of strategic silence. Use absence as presence. Employ pause as power. Utilize space as signal. Deploy stillness as strength. Apply void as voice. The superior strategist understands that what is not done, not said, not shown, often carries more strategic weight than what is openly displayed. Create a strategic communication matrix. For each key area, analyze your current messages, intended, signals, unintended communications, pattern implications, position indicators, timing signals, resource messages, and behavioral communications. This document becomes your guide to ensuring your actions communicate your strategy rather than expose it. The strategic approach to communication requires understanding that every action exists in a context that gives it meaning. The same action can communicate strength or weakness, confidence or fear, depending on its context and timing. The superior strategist masters not just the action itself, but the context that gives it meaning. Think of strategic communication as conducting an orchestra. Every instrument, every action, position, timing, and presence must play its part in creating a harmonious whole. The art lies not in making each element louder, but in ensuring each serves the overall strategic composition, just as a conductor shapes music through both sound and silence. The strategist shapes understanding through both action and restraint. Remember, the superior strategist understands that everything communicates. They treat every action, every position, every timing choice as a deliberate message that shapes the strategic landscape. In the realm of strategy, mastering the art of comprehensive communication through action, position, timing, and presence becomes a source of power itself. Those who master this art find strength in making every move matter, every position speak, and every moment communicate strategic intent. In my final battle, I achieved something that puzzled many observers: complete victory without a single arrow being fired. My opponent, seeing the inevitable conclusion, surrendered before the battle began. This brings us to our 18th and most crucial truth. The highest form of strategy is to win without fighting. Position, preparation, and perception can create victory before conflict even begins. Most people think of strategy as a guide to fighting better. This is the lowest level of understanding. The superior strategist knows that true mastery lies in making fighting unnecessary, in creating situations where victory is assured before engagement begins. They understand that the greatest triumph is not in winning 100 battles, but In making battles unnecessary, consider how victory manifests at different levels. Tactical victory comes through position dominance, resource superiority, capability advantage, timing control, and method mastery. Operational victory emerges from system supremacy, process dominance, structure advantage, pattern control, and method superiority. Strategic victory arises through position inevitability, situation control, outcome determination, reality shaping, and future creation. The psychology of non-combat victory operates through subtle channels. Perception shapes reality. Position determines possibility. Preparation creates inevitability. Presence influences outcomes. Pattern suggests conclusion. Power attracts submission. The master strategist understands these principles and uses them to create victory through position, rather than conflict. They know that the highest form of power is that which never needs to be proven. Think of strategic victory as gardening rather than hunting. The hunter must chase and fight. The gardener creates conditions that make growth inevitable. The superior strategist focuses on creating conditions where victory grows naturally rather than forcing it through conflict. They understand that the most elegant victory is one that appears completely natural to all observers. Your opponents will attempt to challenge your positioning, question your inevitability, test your preparation, probe your readiness, and resist your reality. Without mastery of non-combat victory, these challenges will force you into unnecessary conflicts. The master strategist anticipates these attempts and turns them into demonstrations of the inevitability of their victory. The practice of strategic victory requires careful cultivation. Create situations where your success becomes inevitable. Shape circumstances where resistance becomes futile. Build positions where your advantage becomes undeniable. Develop conditions where your victory becomes the natural outcome. Each element must contribute to making conflict unnecessary. Master the art of strategic positioning. Establish control points that command key terrain. Create advantage networks that multiply your power. Build influence systems that shape decisions. Generate victory positions that make resistance impractical. The superior strategist wins through position rather than force, through influence rather than power. Create a strategic victory matrix. For each objective, analyze position requirements, preparation needs, perception management, reality shaping, future creation, control establishment, victory conditions, and success indicators. This document becomes your guide to creating victory through position rather than conflict. The strategic approach to victory requires understanding that winning through fighting is costly and uncertain. Winning through position is elegant and assured. The superior strategist focuses on making their victory inevitable rather than making their fighting superior. They understand that the highest form of strategy makes resistance appear futile rather than making combat effective. Think of strategic victory as the creation of strategic gravity. Just as objects naturally fall toward Earth, circumstances should naturally fall toward your victory. The art lies not in pushing or pulling, but in creating conditions where your desired outcome becomes the natural result of existing forces. Remember, the superior strategist understands that the highest victory requires no fighting. They win through position, preparation, and perception, making conflict unnecessary. In the realm of strategy, the ability to create victory without engagement becomes the ultimate expression of strategic mastery. Those who master this art find victory in peace rather than war, in influence rather than force, in wisdom rather than weapons. You have reached the end of these strategic truths. Remember, strategy is not about fighting better. It's about making fighting unnecessary. Create victory through position, shape reality through preparation, and control outcomes through perception. The path of the strategist is not easy, but it is clear. Now go forth and apply these principles. Your success awaits.